Hi everyone, this is Tama, and I am going to make my first attempt at a somewhat of a tutorial. I'm still recovering from a cold, so my voice is a little bit wobbly and funny sounding. So I will, sorry about that, got a frog in my throat. Okay, so if you've been following me on Instagram and you've been seeing my latest post, I am head over heels over Moss and my newest version of him. And I found that this new simplified version of him is easier to draw. And I really like that. So I made this very quick sketch of Moss, and I'm gonna do the line art sorry, the lines, and then we'll get to watercoloring it. Alright, so I love to use my Copic multiliners in brown, not sepia, brown. My favorite size is 0.5, and I also use 0.3. It all depends on the art, the lines that I want to do. That made no sense, sorry. Right, so I'm using my phone. I have no editing program, so all mistakes, I'm going to include them. That's me just being who I am, being a human. So yeah, let's start. I'm going to be quiet for a little bit as I draw, as I do the lines. You might hear my breathing and my sniffling. So it might not be the best angle really, but hopefully I can, you guys can see how I do my lines. I just basically move my paper around. I don't ever keep it still. Really, I'm so happy with Moss's face shape. It's kind of like a squished marshmallow. And it's really easy to draw. And I gotta admit, sometimes I'm very lazy about drawing, and I will look for shortcuts. So I'm not gonna do like the little the little moss hairs that you see right here. I'm gonna do those with a Prismacolor color pencil. Can't see that. Boop. There we go. In moss green. That's my favorite green right now. Alright, so let me continue. It's like he has perpetual sad eyebrows, even though he is smiling. I always get nervous when I'm drawing. His eyes, the circles. I don't know why I'm freaking out right now, but it's so easy to mess it up. So there's one eye larger than the other. Right, so that's basically Moss's outline. Right, so I'm done with the outlines, and now I am going to erase any pencil marks because I'm going to start adding watercolors to it. So I don't want all of these sketch lines to show. And I try to be a little bit gentle with this paper, this brand. It can pill up a little bit if you're too rough erasing. But this eraser I found is really, really soft. It's really nice on this paper. It's very forgiving. Alright, so I've cleaned it up, and I'm gonna set them aside for a few seconds because I'm gonna show you my watercolor palette. It looks very dirty right now, and it probably is, but it's just, you know, I keep using the same colors and mixing them up in the same pan, so eventually I will clean all this up. All I do is like use a wet paper towel to clean it. It's very easy. Okay, so I am going to be using raw sienna and sepia to make his skin tone. So I still have a little bit of water in my water brush. So I just like to put in a good amount of water because it is a color that once I mix it I will be using quite often. I am a little bit rough with my watercolor brush, but that's what I like about the synthetic bristles. Very, very forgiving. I always keep around also a piece of or artwork that I didn't like. You know, I just used the paper to test my colors on. There's no use in using up like a brand new piece of paper, you know, to test my colors. Just use old ones. Okay, so it needs to be darker with the sepia, with the raw sienna. And the brand that I'm using is Daniel Smith. Those are my favorite paints. But to be honest, I haven't tried out other kinds of brands, so I might be biased. Right, so this looks about right. This is the color that I'm looking for. It's not picking up too well on the camera, I think, maybe by this angle. But yeah, this is the shade of brown that I want. Now before I start painting his skin, I also want to have his the green for his leaves ready. So I had already mixed this up. I'll probably pick up some more of Daniel Smith olive green, and I like to mix it up with a little bit of sepia to darken up the color, make it more earthy. What you don't see off camera is that I am wiping my, ooh, that's probably a little bit too dark, my brush on a simple paper towel. So I probably added too much sepia. Let's see. Actually, no, that kind of works. Maybe add a little bit more of the green. Wait. That looks better. Alright, so now I'm ready to lay down. Actually, I'm gonna refill my brush because if I leave it like this, it's going to start sucking up the paint through here, which is weird. I'll be right back. All right, so we're back with Moss and his outline, and I'm going to start to add paint. Just making sure that I don't have any green on here, because I'm going to start with his skin color. Going to start at the top. I like to go a little bit, I don't know, lately, I like to go a little bit out of the line. I don't know why, really. I just like the way it looks. Move your paper around as you need. Okay, and before the paint dries, I'm gonna add the green to his leaves. And I'm gonna bring it over to the green, skin tone, so that it can bleed into that brown color. I'm going to come in a little bit more, or I should say a little bit farther down. I'm just going to, because this is the moss on his head, the top of his head. I might add okay, so that seems about right. I'm gonna pause the video and wait for the paint to dry, and then we'll add his blush and a few more details with color pencils. Okay, so it doesn't take too long for the paint to dry. I do not like using a blow dryer. I just like to let it, dry on its own. That way I can multitask and do other things while my artwork is drying. Okay, so I'm going to set them aside very quickly, very briefly, and I'm going to use my favorite red, Venetian Red by Redwoodwillow. Handmade paints. I just really love it. It's the perfect color for blush. So I can either mix it up over here, or what I've been doing lately is mixing it in here in this one. Only because whenever I mix it in the pan, it kind of runs down and mixes up with the brown. I just love this color so much. What I like to do, I like to try it, the colors, next to each other on top of the skin tone that I'm using, just to make sure that it's the right pink, the right shade, the right I don't know, depth. I guess. So I could make it just a tad bit darker. It might be too dark. It's okay. Now, if the paint is too wet on the face, what's going to happen is going to bleed just like it did up here. And I don't want that. I want a defined blush. So, hoping that I let it dry enough for it to not bleed. Oh gosh, he's so cute. So that's it right there with the watercolor paints. So I'm gonna pause the video one more time, and I'm gonna wait for this blush to dry, and then I'll come in with the colored pencils. Well, actually, I think I'm not gonna wait for the paint to dry. You can see it's still wet because I already have like timed out the sunlight in my room, and it's about 4:45 in the afternoon, and around 5:30, 5:15 the sun will be completely gone from my room. All right, so all I'm going to be doing is adding a few details. So I'm going to add the little mossy hairs on his head. I'm hoping I don't smudge his blush. So that color, I think I showed it before, but that is Moss Green by Prismacolor. And I'm going to use Pompeian Red by Faber-Castell. This is their Polychromos line. I really like this red. I should have sharpened it before, but for this little bit, it's okay. Now, if the paint were completely dry, it would be a lot easier to add these details in the colored pencils. So I'm just gonna add some freckles. I'm not gonna press too hard on the paper because it's still a little bit humid, and I don't want to punch through it by mistake. So just adding a few freckles, a few dots up here. I can't have this video be too long. I don't have that much memory space in my phone, and pretty soon it's gonna say, hey, you're out of space. Alright, so the last thing I'm gonna do is with the number 3 multi-liner. I'm just gonna add a few dots here and there, and then usually I would go into a bit more detail, but that's basically the gist of moss. Oh, before I end the video, I'm going to come in with Chocolate by Prismacolor. And I'm just going to darken his pupils. Alright, and that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and I'm hoping to make more of them in the near future on a monthly basis, probably one video up to 20 minutes long. So Yay! Looking forward to that.